Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Hockey Report. It is Tuesday, December the 16th. Apologies for the last little bit. It's been a bit of a week for me. Really tough travel schedule last week. We were back for Friday, and then I got super sick over the weekend, just kind of in recovery mode today. But yesterday, I was a total write-off. So I was able to get the charts done. So hopefully, if you're in the DFO DFS Discord, you use the charts and had a good night last night. But no show yesterday, but we're back. Hopefully, into the regular mix, getting back to normal life. The one thing that's going to be a little unnormal about today's show is Zach is kind of in the shadows right now. We're going to let Zach, he's working a little bit. He's finishing up a couple things at Oilers Nation, and we're going to get to him here in a few minutes. But before we get to Zach, I'll let him get to work. Let's break down tonight's goalies. And if you're unaware, DraftKings has one of the biggest contests, or the biggest contest of the season tonight. Somebody is going to be walking away with $100,000. It's a $555 entry as of right now, just under 80 spots remaining. So if you got an extra $550 American kicking around, and you like what you hear on today's show, really, really fun contest there. I want to wish you good luck, but I'm hoping not too good of luck because I want to win 100K tonight. So Tampa 1 also no-showed yesterday. Yeah, I was looking at it pre-show. I was looking at their Wowie. They have like a 4.9 expected goals for per 60. I was very heavy on Tampa 1 yesterday. Did not go great. We're back, says Nick. Yeah, glad to be back. I'm a little raspy today, so apologies. Like, subscribe, join the Discord. Yeah, link is in the description of the video on YouTube. But let's get into tonight's goalies. We got John Gibson starting for the Detroit Red Wings. He's been playing much better as of late. Ilya Sorokin for the Islanders. He's also been playing extremely well. Jacob Fowler gets his third career start for the Montreal Canadiens. It's going to be Dan Vladar for the Philadelphia Flyers. Projected to see Jonathan Quick on the second half of a back-to-back for the New York Rangers. Thatcher Demko confirmed to go for the Vancouver Canucks. It'll be Jet Greaves for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Ville Husso projected to start on the second half of a back-to-back for the Anaheim Ducks. It'll be Jeremy Swayman between the pipes for the Boston Bruins. Vitek Vanacek projected, or likely, to get the start for the Utah Mammoth. Joseph Woll back in net for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It'll be Spencer Knight, likely to start for the Chicago Blackhawks, who will be without Connor Bedard until after the new year. This is just a hilarious visual. We've got Stuart Skinner starting for the Pittsburgh Penguins in an Edmonton Oilers mask, and we've got Tristan Jarry starting for the Edmonton Oilers in a Pittsburgh Penguins mask. It has me, my mind a little bit scrambled today. But as far as I've seen this morning, Stuart Skinner was still wearing his Oilers mask in the morning skate. So I think that they're actually probably both still going to be rocking these helmets tonight, which would be, I think, just one of the funniest things of all time. So yeah, really fun matchup. I'm just excited to watch that hockey game. Looks like a very fun game environment as well for DFS purposes. So a lot of interest in that game this evening. Then you've got Minnesota Wild. They'll go Philip Gustafsson. It'll be Charlie Lindgren between the pipes for the Washington Capitals. The San Jose Sharks will go with Yaroslav Askarov tonight. It'll be Dustin Wolf for the Calgary Flames. And then in the final game of the evening, we've got the Seattle Kraken hosting the Colorado Avalanche. The Avs are the biggest favorites on the slate. No surprise there. Mackenzie Blackwood starts for the Avs. Unclear who starts for the Kraken, but Joey Decord reportedly was on the ice for extra work in the morning skate, which typically suggests he will not be playing tonight, which means that it looks like Philip Grubauer will likely face his former team. Although unconfirmed, I don't think it matters to anybody that much. Like, obviously, the Avs probably get a small boost if it's Grubauer. I don't think anybody's really planning on playing the Seattle goalie this evening in DFS. Let's get into tonight's slate. We've got Detroit hosting the New York Islanders. The Red Wings have had a lot of success against a lot of teams this season. They've played extremely well. The one team they have not had success against is the New York Islanders. They have been absolutely crushed by the Islanders this year. The first time they lost 7-2. And then the second time they lost 5-0. So they've been outscored 12-2 by the Islanders this year. I think it's fair to say that the Red Wings are a little bit of a different team this time around compared to who they were the last time these two teams met. But the Red Wings were starting to play well, and I remember being very high in Detroit one the last time these two teams met, and I believe it was the last time there was like a really big DK contest as well. It was like kind of all in on Detroit, and they shit their pants. But this is the second best 5v5 XG team in terms of weighted team ratings over their, again, it's weighted over the season in the last few weeks, in the last month or so. So it's weighted to have some recency bias. So they're playing very well at 5v5. The Islanders not defending great, but not poorly either. Middle of the pack. PK has been solid as well. The one thing for the Detroit Red Wings tonight is no Patrick Kane. That's certainly going to hurt the power play. It's certainly going to hurt this line overall. John Leonard will be filling in for Patrick Kane on that second line. Andrew Kopp, DeBrincat, and Kane have been playing really well. Remains to be seen how Leonard will fill in, but AHL numbers are just off the charts for John Leonard. Let's get to the line stacks for this game. Detroit one grades out the best, Finney, Larkin, Raymond. Not a whole lot of ownership coming into this game, and I think that's pretty fair. We've got no Matt Barzal. No Bo Horvat for the Islanders. And Matt Barzal is a game time decision. It does sound like Barzal's going to play, but he was not at the morning skate. The way these lines look, you could probably try to run it back with Richie and Max Shabanoff. They absolutely destroyed the Red Wings in their last meeting. Whether or not that happens again, we shall see. But I just don't think there's a lot here to like on the Islanders side of things unless you just fully believe that they're going to continue to dominate the Red Wings like they have in their last two meetings. But the matchups aren't great. The underlying metrics are pretty underwhelming as well. So I think I got a little bit of interest in the Detroit side of things tonight. 16,900 for that top line, not seeing much ownership. And then the second line, 13,600. I think they're a pretty interesting value option. Leonard, as I mentioned, got some really good offensive chops at the AHL level. DeBrincat's obviously been on another level. Kopp's been playing extremely well on this line lately, just 3,100. So I think they're an interesting value option, if nothing else. The Red Wings do have the third best power play advantage. So obviously you've got DeBrincat on that top power play unit with that top line. Then obviously the top line fully correlates. It doesn't fully correlate, but you've got Raymond and Larkin up there. So really nice matchup here for the Red Wings power play, fifth best power play as of late, going up against 26th ranked PK. So most of my interest comes on the Detroit Red Wings side of things in this game. Very limited on the Islanders side of things. But I could see a path to how the Islanders get there tonight. I just don't know if that's going to be in my lineup. Zach, are you still grinding away, or do you need a little bit more time?
Still grinding away. Need a little bit more time here.
Really quickly, any interest in this game as a whole?
I think I got a little bit of interest. Obviously, I don't like that there's no Patrick Kane there for Detroit too, but I think I'm going to get some ownership on this top line. Maybe a little bit of that Islanders, Max Shabanoff, like you mentioned, 2 goals and 3 points in that game earlier this year. He had a really solid performance there with a couple of shots on goal as well. So, but I don't think that this game feels like one of those that it's like you kind of got to jam in or anything like that. But I think I'll get a little bit of ownership on this one.
Yeah, and I think like Matt Barzal at 5,700, been playing extremely well, 7 points in his last 6 games. Shot volume still leaves a little bit to be desired, but the usage has been ginormous as of late without Bo Horvat the last 2 games. Played 23-48 and 24-58. So seeing massive usage, but it depends how much they get on the score sheet tonight. If the time on ice doesn't really matter if they're not scoring. But yeah, this is an interesting game, I think, at limited ownership because we have seen the Islanders get there. The Red Wings are playing extremely well. So I think it's kind of an interesting contrarian game. Let's get to Montreal and Philadelphia. Both these teams grade out really, really well defensively, not so well offensively. The power play is both pretty good. PK for Montreal sucks, but this Montreal Canadiens team, I believe, is pretty difficult to figure out. I haven't had a whole lot of luck playing them or figuring them out this year. Philadelphia, Trevor Zegras has played really well. Dvorak and Konechny, that top line grades out the best. Very limited ownership on that side. A decent chunk of ownership, but nothing crazy on Montreal one at 16,300. I think you could probably get to Mishkov, Cates, and Brink on this third line for Philadelphia. But overall, this game looks extremely low event, extremely low scoring. The matchups for the Montreal side of things are brutal. The matchups for the Philadelphia side of things are just slightly above average. The offensive metrics are basically average to below average for every line in this game. The power play matchups pretty good for the for the Montreal side of things. That would be kind of the extent of my interest in this game. I think for the most part, though, not a high total game, not a game that I expect a whole lot of fireworks. So I think you could maybe talk about Montreal's power play unit with Suzuki, Caulfield, and company. But overall, I don't think that there's a ton in this game. The one thing that is worth mentioning, especially if you're going to play Montreal, is no Mike Matheson this evening. So these pairs are projected, but Dobson's next most used D partner besides Matheson is Lane Hutson. So I think naturally you'd expect those two to be together. Either way, no matter how the pairs shake out, I expect Hudson and Dobson to both play a tremendous amount of minutes tonight. I also think that Alexander Carrier is a guy that's going to be due for a few additional minutes tonight as well, at just $2,700. So those three, I would give them all a little bit of a boost. Hudson, Dobson, and Carrier is a nice value option in terms of the minutes projected. Let's take a look at how things shake out when you take Matheson out of the lineup. So we got Hudson at 27 minutes nearly, Dobson at nearly 25, and Carrier at 24. So Carrier again at $2,700 grades out as a really nice value piece this evening. Zach, I know you're still grinding, but any quick thoughts on this one, or kind of feel similar in lower scoring game with not a lot of interest?
Yeah, feels pretty gross to me. Like I think there's some interesting kind of one-off options. I like the value plays on defense for the Canadians tonight. Just that usage with Matheson out, I think is going to be a real key here in this spot. But yeah, I don't really love this one here tonight. Feels kind of like a lower event game. I think if I had to lean one side, I think I'd lean a little bit towards the Flyers. Just a little bit more offensive success at 5-on-5 late. That penalty or that power play rather, generating a good number of looks, just kind of struggling to capitalize on it. So that's about as much interest as I have in that one though.
Yeah, I think like from a betting perspective, I think I definitely like the Flyers like money line versus the Flyers in DFS. One other name to mention, our boy Rasmus Ristolainen back in the mix. I don't know how much he's going to play in his first game in like 8 months, but $2,500 if you need another shout for the for a value option there. Let's get to the Rangers and the Vancouver Canucks. The Rangers were top of the charts last night and absolutely stunk it up. Both teams suck defensively. Both teams kind of middle of the pack defensively, and then the power plays are solid. The PKs are bad for the Rangers, pretty decent actually for the Vancouver Canucks. We don't have 100% clarity, but because he was scratched due to being late for a team meeting, we do expect Mika Zibanejad to be back in the mix tonight. Mika Zibanejad was before he got scratched, was on the line with Panarin and Lafreniere. So we expect Trocheck, Miller, Sheary back together as their kind of shutdown line. Good afternoon, fellas. Good afternoon, Connor. Welcome back. Is talking as crazy as Taurus will Ristolainen be PP1? I hope so. I love Risto PP1. But this game, yeah, like I it's weird. Like I don't really know what to expect of the Vancouver Canucks in this new look lineup. The top line with DeBrusk, Rossi, and Besser grades out pretty well, top 25 at 14,300. I think they're an interesting value option tonight. I think that the matchup isn't great. They're going to see a ton of that Miller Trocheck line, which have pretty decent defensive metrics, just about average. So I just don't think that I trust the Canucks to get enough going offensively on a 10-game slate. I think that this is a line that I'm certainly going to have interest in moving forward, but right now just not probably the matchup or the time. Jonathan Quick's played pretty well. New York, I as good as the matchups look here, slightly above average. For this top six, the underlying metrics, pretty solid. I just think this New York team is tough to trust. If they were unable to generate much against one of the worst defensive teams in the league against the Ducks last night, how do you buy in that they're going to be able to do so tonight against the Vancouver Canucks, who in their own right aren't a great defensive team, but the underlying metrics aren't too disastrous as of late. So back to back, I just, if you got burned by the Rangers last night, I just don't think that you're going to want to get back to them tonight. The power play matchup's pretty bleak. That, I have a hard time believing in this Rangers team. And on home ice, they just have done absolutely nothing this year. And then the Canucks, like we talk about it a lot. When they were like dealing with Quinn Hughes injuries, it was tough to buy in on the Canucks with Quinn Hughes out. Now he's out permanently. And it's like, where does this team go from here? We haven't had a chance to talk about this trade, but I'm a big believer in Zibuim. But is he Quinn Hughes at this moment in time? Absolutely not. So I just think that this team is going to try to have to find their way here moving forward, and tonight is probably not the night to buy in initially. So excited to see what this team can do. I think they did really well in that trade, as good as they probably could have. I wish it would have been with Detroit and Quinn Hughes was in Detroit, but I digress. So, Zach, any thoughts on this Rangers Vancouver game?
It feels disgusting to play. I mean, we saw what happened last night for the Rangers in a good spot going up against the Anaheim Ducks. They were absolutely inept offensively. Miller revenge game, yeah, that's certainly a possibility. I don't know if I'd necessarily bank on it. Like, I think I'm going to get a little bit of ownership on this Rangers side of things. Like, I pretty much agree with where the field is at right now. Kind of like 5% on that top line, and then maybe like a Trocheck Miller mini stack as well. I don't think I'm going to get much more ownership than that. The nice thing about Panarin and Zibanejad at the very least right now is that their floors have been solid. Panarin did hit the shot bonus last night, so that was something that's worth something. And at the end of the day, it is a pretty brutal Vancouver Canucks team here. And without Quinn Hughes, it feels like it's only going to get worse as time kind of goes on here. So I've got a little bit of interest in the Rangers. I don't feel good about playing them. As for the Canucks, I just same sort of a thing, man. Like, I just kind of feel like it's a tough team to get to. But again, maybe 5% on that top line. Like, the nice thing about DeBrusk is you've got some shot volume there. Rossi, got a decent floor as well as of late here. So, but again, it feels really thin to me. So, I mean, I think if I'm 20 maxing, I'll probably get there. But, otherwise, I might be leaving this game off entirely.
Their first game without Quinn Hughes, they did win. They were able to generate an entire 15 shots on goal. So let's get to Columbus and Anaheim, probably the most interesting game of the night. The Ducks still grade out very well at 5v5 offense. Power play sucks, though. The Blue Jackets, their 5v5 offense has taken a dip as of late. They've really cooled off, but really nice matchups for both sides here. Particularly the Columbus Blue Jackets, who also have a strong power play. The power play is solid. The penalty kill for the Ducks, pretty solid as well. So the power play matchup overall, not great. But what is so interesting about this game is the amount of ownership that's coming in on Columbus one. Press the wrong button. They are by far and away the highest owned line on the night. And for obvious reasons, right? This is obviously a very good matchup, but they're also really, really, really cheap. They have cooled off a little bit, but like, I don't think it's to the point where they should be, under $16,000 as a line. So I think that this is obviously a really good spot for Columbus. How much, how much ownership you're willing to eat is kind of the question. Marchenko, Fantilli, I think are two just very strong plays at this price tag. But again, just how much ownership do you want to take on? Obviously, if they go off, you don't want to be left holding the bag, so to speak. But at the same time, everything in this game makes sense for them to be a smash spot. Like, the matchup is as good as it gets. It's like the highest event game we've seen all season in terms of the 5v5 pace. The second line, really, really good matchup. Number one matchup on the night. The top line, outstanding. They're going to see a big mix of that bottom nine, which is just, the middle six is just a tire fire defensively. So, yeah, it's a really good spot for a line that's had a lot of success this season, a lot of success in the last two seasons. And at this price tag, I think it's very difficult to ignore them. So I'm a little bit more willing to take on some of the chalk tonight and munch a little bit of that chalk than I am to just outright fade them. I do think that this second line also presents a very interesting pivot spot. I don't know how much I'm going to get there. But at 11,300, I mean, Monahan and Jenner, they've been fine. Jenner's been solid as of late, over 10 DraftKings points per game. Since coming back into the lineup here, Chidikov at $2,500, he's going to be moved up the lineup. He's going to see some additional power play time. At least they're supposed to tonight. So I think that they're also an interesting pivot option tonight. They have the 100% matchup score, and they're coming in with a third of the ownership. So that's another way to kind of get exposure to this game, but get a little bit different. And they grade out overall 28th, which is pretty decent for a $11,000 line. So So certainly interested in that side of the puck. The Ducks, the way the lines shake out right now, like Gauthier, Carlson minis make some sense. McTavish, Kreider, Seneca looks solid on paper. McTavish, it's kind of a roller coaster ride with him. The third line, Terry back down there. I just don't think that you need to click on the third line of the Ducks, but the second line just the best matchup overall. They're going to see a lot of that Monahan line tonight. That's the Kreider, McTavish, Seneca line. Obviously, a lot there. I'm more interested in the Blue Jackets side of things tonight than I am the Ducks. Zach, how do you differ in this game?
I don't really differ a whole lot on the Columbus side of things. Like, I think that I'm okay munching this chalk on this top line. All three of these guys have been fairly solid throughout the course of this season. I love the shut on this second line because Boone Jenner has been red hot since returning from injury. Evidently, that price tag is starting to creep up at $4,100, but I mean, still super palatable on a slate like this, right? The matchup score is tremendous for them. There's lots of things to like about this Blue Jacket side, but I also agree with you that like I'm okay getting to this Ducks side here. I mean, we've seen what they've been able to do offensively at times this season. We kind of keep talking about them being this, all gas, no breaks team. And this feels like a nice spot. I mean, Jet Greaves has been tremendous this season for the Blue Jackets. I think better than anybody expected. But it is worth mentioning, a year ago Sunday, actually, Jet Greaves started a game against the Anaheim Ducks, gave up 4 goals against in a 4-3 loss in overtime. So I think this is a Ducks team that can get to almost anybody right now. So I'm comfortable playing them on pretty much any given slate. And it doesn't really change a whole lot for me here tonight. The Blue Jackets have still been a team that are struggling defensively. So I don't really have any issue getting ownership here on the Ducks side of things. Hopefully they keep this lineup together and we don't get sewered like we did last night. Because that was pretty gross, to say the very least. I really wish somebody from the Ducks or a reporter would post these lines as they're going on in warmups, but I digress. That's an argument for another day to make.
Yeah, I might have to move to California and become a Ducks beat reporter so we can get some reliable in warm-up news. They're good at home, but I don't think many Ducks reporters travel, unfortunately for us. But after a 4-1 win last night, I do expect lines to remain the same. Here's hoping. Just a Boone Jenner, 6 points in his last 7 games. Monahan, 7 points in his last 8 games, if you want to go to that second line. Not a lot of floor for that line, but I think they could find some success. Okay, sorry to go back to the Detroit game. Are we still on the JVR train? Power play 1 ? Yes. I really like that line. I like they are interesting. I've played them quite a bit lately as a value option. And yeah, I don't mind getting to James Van Riemsdyk again tonight at all because he is going to be on the top power play unit for Patrick Kane. So yes, I am still on the JVR train. Am I going to full stack Detroit, whatever, 3 or 4, whatever, Comfort and JVR? Probably not, but I don't mind a JVR one-off this evening. I'm still on board with that. He's played very well. Underlying metrics for that team, very solid. And power play 1 tonight helps big time. So hopefully they can fire one in off his ass in front of the net. And how are you doing, Zach? Are you ready to break down the Boston-Utah game?
Yeah, I am. Got a riveting matchup here tonight, to say the very least. Boston Bruins hosting the Utah Mammoth tonight. Boston coming in. It's a pick 'em here tonight. Minus 106 for the Bruins, minus 104 for the Utah Mammoth. 3.2 implied total for Boston, 3.1 for Utah. Utah, top 10 offense in the league. I mean, they've been generating a lot throughout the course of this season. They're a team that we've played a lot of. I think this is a spot to get back to them with a little bit of ownership here tonight. It's worth mentioning there's not really a ton coming in on this game here. And for as much as Boston has kind of started to find their way a little bit offensively, and thanks to, Morgan Geeky's shooting heater that he's been on this season, and David Pastrnak being David Pastrnak, still a bottom 10 off defense within the league. So I don't mind getting a little bit of ownership here on this game tonight. If we take a look at the line stacks, Utah won, coming in as the number 1 line to target in this game tonight. 3rd overall in the charts. Nick Schmaltz, JJ Peterka, and Clayton Keller at a reasonable price, $18,700 for these guys. I don't mind getting there tonight with a little bit of ownership. Projecting for just 6.3% right now from our friends at Roto Grinders. Utah 2 coming in as a 25th best line to target, and then my boys down there on Utah 3 coming in at 30th overall. And then the Boston Bruins. I mean, it's pretty rough rankings for these guys. 36th overall for Boston 1, that second line coming in at 50th. I think it's pretty straightforward when you look at the matchups here. Not a tremendous pace score or anything like that, but the matchups all well in favor of this Mammoth side of things. I think that's where my ownership is going to go in this game here tonight. I think there's some interesting value options here. Within this team in that second and third lines, some ways to kind of get yourself really differently. Lawson Krause is a guy that I've been playing quite a bit. Granted more when he was down there on Utah 3. But I like getting to this second line here tonight. They've got the best matchup. Or a better matchup than that top line. The line stats are also a little bit stronger for that second line of the Mammoth. The shot attempt numbers are solid. The expected goal numbers are solid. A little bit more high danger scoring chances as well for these three guys this season. So I don't mind that idea whatsoever. And I think if you need to get really thin, if you're 20 maxing or something like that, I don't hate the idea at all of going down to that third line. A great matchup score, the best of the top 9 for the Mammoth tonight. They've also got the best line stats. This is three guys who have had a lot of success so far this season in terms of generating quality, a lot of high danger chances. And if you take a look at those defensive metrics for the Bruins, they are giving up a lot on a consistent basis. I also don't hate the idea of just throwing a little bit of a dart at Boston 1 here tonight as well. Morgan Geekie, David Pastrnak, mini stack. Both of these guys have just been absolutely red hot. So, for a guy like Geekie, not been a ton of volume here as of late in terms of his shot volume, but continuing to shoot the lights out at shooting 23.6% over his last 20 games and 26.8% on the season.
Yeah, with Vanacek getting the start, I do feel a little bit better about Boston. They've been a tough click this year, but yeah, Vanacek basically gives up 3 goals like every single game. So dating back to the start of November, he is 0-5-1 with an 860 save percentage. But his only start against the Bruins this season, he stopped 24 of 26. So that could just be a Bruins issue. Power play report for this game, both bad. Let's get to game number 6. The Toronto Maple Leafs host the Chicago Blackhawks, the Connor Bedard-less Chicago Blackhawks. I find it very, I was always very outspoken about how I just didn't trust the metrics here for the Chicago Blackhawks, even when Connor Bedard was in the lineup. Now I don't know what to do because he's out. So it's they are just horrific. This is pathetic. These numbers are just atrocious. How they're still converting at 21.5% is beyond me. The penalty kill is the only thing that they are good at right now, which is hilarious. Matchups in this game really good for Toronto 1. And I think Toronto 1's in an interesting spot tonight. Auston Matthews has not been himself this year. There's been a lot of chatter on the socials about just the fall off of Auston Matthews has been insane. Tonight, William Nylander on the top line. Does that help? Probably. Does the fact that the Chicago Blackhawks are horrific defensively and that they have a 98.7% matchup score? Probably. The underlying metrics are what the underlying metrics are. This has not been a very good 5v5 team. Matthews, for as bad as he's been, quote unquote, his last 15 games since the start of November, 13 points, including 8 goals in his last 15 games. It's still 44 goal pace, still 71 point pace. The problem is he's still $9,200. So you got to pay a pretty penny. I think you could probably offset that with the fact that Nylander, for some reason, is only $7,200. They should probably be one should be probably $500 cheaper and one should probably be $500 more expensive. Although Nylander has cooled off considerably. I do think this is a good spot, and they're not seeing a lot of ownership. And I do think that this might be the first time in a while that I've considered clicking on Toronto 1. The Chicago Blackhawks side of things, I'm just not going to get there. Joseph Woll's played well this year. The Leafs, have seemingly are starting to clean things up defensively, creeping up there. But this is a hilarious looking game when you look at the overall team ratings and just how bad the Leafs have been this year. So yeah, without Nylander on that second line, I think there's no reason to really get to it. So a long-winded way of saying I am interested in Toronto 1 tonight for the first time in a while, and that is probably the only thing that I will click on in this game. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's pretty much Toronto one or bust for me here. I like the idea of William Nylander being up there on that top line. The wow or the wowies for these three guys when they've been together over the last two seasons, 129 minute sample size, 4.18 goals for per hour of ice time, but just 2.67 expected goals for per hour. They're kind of on a shooting heater when they are together, shooting 12.7%. This seems like a spot where that could probably continue, but it has just been such a weird year for this Toronto team. And I think the biggest concern that I have is just overall the lack of volume that this team has had offensively this season. Even over their last 10 games, only 24.3 shots on goal per hour at 5-on-5. Their power play is absolutely inept. So I think I'm okay getting to this top line tonight. It kind of feels like one of those spots you might be able to get some leverage over the field on. They're projecting for 7.5% ownership, and I don't hate the idea. If you're building a bunch of lineups of getting up to that 10 or 15% range, I think this is a Chicago team that evidently is going to look a lot different without Connor Bedard here moving forward. In the same breath, like if you are building a lot of lineups, I don't entirely hate the idea of throwing a bit of a dart at Chicago one, a Frank Nazar, Tyler Bertuzzi mini stack. I've kind of got some interest in that. They're going to play a lot together. 28% of the ice time is what they're projected for. And again, just with how bad this Toronto Maple Leafs team has been, I could see a world where they help you win some money tonight. This top line. I mean, it doesn't feel like a great play or anything like that. And like I said, if I'm building one lineup tonight, it's certainly not going to be around Chicago one. But I think they offer an interesting spot here in a larger field tournament.
Yeah, I agree with you on Toronto, where it doesn't feel like the safest or best play, but I won't be surprised at all if playing Toronto one ends up being a really strong play tomorrow. Like if we're sitting here like, oh yeah, like Toronto one made a lot of sense. It just felt a little gross the way things have gone, but like I won't be shocked at all. Rebecca's asking about what we should do with the $2,500 players on the Chicago top power play unit. That is not the Chicago Blackhawks. Yeah, Nick Lardis. He had 8 shot attempts in his NHL debut. 2 shots on goal. Really, really good AHL numbers. He's on top power play unit. I think he's a very strong value option tonight. He's probably the only player I would really click on from the from the Blackhawks. And then Matt Grzelcyk gets the bump up to the top power play unit tonight. They are scratching Artem Levshunov, who for disciplinary reasons he was late to a team meeting or practice, I believe. So, yeah, I think they both make sense from a value perspective. I think Grzelcyk is either gonna, he could have a solid game for sure. Like he could be one of the best value defensemen on the slate. He could also leave you with like a bagel in the lineup. He's kind of like a big swing. Where Lardis, I think, has some real upside. Really good AHL numbers. Just outstanding shot volume in that first game. Played like 15 minutes. I think that he's a really interesting value option tonight for sure. And somebody that I'm interested in on from the Chicago side of things. Any final thoughts on this game before we get on to the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Edmonton Oilers?
No, let's move this one along. Very interesting game here tonight for a whole variety of reasons.
So many.
You got Leon Draisaitl, 1 point away from reaching 1,000. You've got the Stuart Skinner, Brett Kulak, and Tristan Jarry revenge game narratives here. Games between the Oilers and the Penguins always are a blast. You got McDavid and Crosby lining up head to head. It's going to be a real treat to watch this one tonight. I'm really excited for it. The Oilers are coming in as the road favorites here, minus 138 on the money line, 3.4 implied total for them, 2.9 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Two teams with, top 10 offenses in the NHL, two teams with, bottom 10 defenses in the NHL, two teams with tremendous power plays here this season. And then you got one team in the Penguins with a solid penalty kill and one team in the Oilers with a not so solid penalty kill. This game is really interesting to me for a whole variety of reasons. Edmonton one grading out as the best line to target from this game here tonight. They're 7th overall on the charts. Since McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, and Hyman have been put back together, they've just been absolutely tremendous. They are back to their old ways offensively, generating on a nightly basis. They're a trio that I'm certainly going to be getting to here tonight. Pittsburgh one coming in as a 10th best line to target overall on the slate, second best in this game. Edmonton two, really sneakily a line that's been productive here as of late as well. 17th overall on the charts, Pittsburgh 3 and Pittsburgh 2 grading out within the top 40 as well. Taking a look at the matchups here in this game tonight, not a huge pace score or anything like that, just a 94.7. One of the lower ones on the night as a whole here. Oilers are coming in with much more favorable matchups in this spot. Edmonton 1 looks like they're in a solid spot, 37% of their ice time going up against that Sidney Crosby line and 31% going up against that second line with Ben Kendall, Rutger McGrody, and Justin Brazeau there. So I think for me, you take a look at it, it's rough matchups for the Penguins. I don't think that's necessarily going to hold me off from playing some Pittsburgh here tonight. When you take a look at the line stats for both of these teams, the Oilers numbers are starting to improve here a little bit within this top six. I think once we start to get more of a sample size, especially around Edmonton 1, those numbers are going to improve. Pittsburgh 1, all gas, no brakes. The defensive metrics for these guys have just been absolutely terrible this season, which is kind of shocking to see, considering you got Sidney Crosby up there. But that second line for the Penguins is one that I've got a lot of interest in here tonight. Ben Kendall has been just quietly tremendous this season. His price has really gone up here to $4,500, but not projected for much ownership at all, just 2.8%. And then Rutger McGrody up there, really solid shot volume in the couple of games that he's played so far here. 11.8 shots on goal per hour of ice time in his 86 minutes. This is a mini stack that I absolutely love here tonight. Getting to these two guys, you got Kendall's off the top power play unit. I didn't know that. That's too bad, because that was one thing that I really liked about being able to play Kendall as well. Yeah. He was up there on that top power play unit. For me, I'll probably get to a little bit of this top line for the Penguins as well here tonight, projecting to just 5% ownership. The Oilers have still had defensive issues this season. We're going to see what happens here, because it feels like they're kind of turning a corner here over this last week or two in a more significant way than they had in the past. The Edmonton Oilers side of things, Connor McDavid, 16 games played against the Penguins in his career. He's got 9 goals and 30 points. He has been absolutely ridiculous going up against the Penguins in his career. So you all know me, I'm the Oilers homer. Definitely going to be clicking on the Edmonton Oilers here tonight. And one other angle here that I like attacking from this game as well is this Penguins power play. That top line fully correlates on the top unit, as well as Anthony Mantha at $3,500. You got Erik Karlsson, the power play quarterback there. I think they're in a really nice spot here tonight too.
McDavid's just been on fire as of late too. 16 points in his last 6 games, 7 goals, 9 assists, just insane production as of late. Yeah, I'm a little surprised at the pace score of this game, because when you take a look at the team metrics, this looks like the best game environment of the night. I think the other game you could argue is Columbus Anaheim, but I just feel like there's so much firepower in this game. The top line, Crosby, Rust, Raquel, Crosby and Rust specifically, they've been on fire. The top line for the Oilers been on fire, as you mentioned. I think that basically the entire game is in play. I feel like if they decide to match up Pittsburgh 1 against Edmonton 1 a little bit, I do have some concerns about the Crosby line. If McDavid is just crushing them, I do have a little bit of concern there if they decide to go with that matchup. But the way we've got it is it's mostly top 6 against top 6, so they should be able to take advantage of the Leon Draisaitl line a little bit. The Leon Draisaitl line, is not quite as good offensively or defensively as the McDavid line. And then, Kendall and McGrody and Brazeau, he hasn't been quite as good since coming back from injury, but still solid. Big game last game. I think they're really interesting. Kendall never met a shot he doesn't like. $4,500. I think you got a good floor for those two. But this. Even Podkolzin's been coming on a little bit offensively, and Savoy's looked a lot better. This game feels maybe too good to be true, especially you got to imagine both teams got the book on the goalies too, right? They've played hundreds and hundreds of games with these guys. So it's just such an interesting game. It looks like such a good game environment. You've got the goaltender factor. It feels like the highest scoring game of the night, and I want to get into it. I really, really like it for just so many reasons. The Pittsburgh Penguins also the top power play matchup of the night. And as you mentioned, that top line fully correlated on that top power play unit. So even if they do struggle a little bit at 5v5, a lot to like about them on that top power play unit as well. So, yeah, so much good and so much fun in this game. Do you agree that it just feels like the best in game environment overall?
Oh, 100%. I do. And I think the Anaheim Columbus game is a close second. The narratives are just, yeah, Tom, you pretty much nailed it there.
Oh, that's so funny.
This game environment does feel tremendous to me. Like, this is probably one of the more fascinating regular season games that I can honestly remember in some time, just because of all of these narratives that are going on with this. One thing that I will just add on Edmonton 1 here, 8 games played together since they've been put back together this season. In 66 minutes, they're generating 33.3 shots on goal per hour, 6.29 goals for per hour, 3.7 expected goals for per hour, and 16.2 high danger scoring chances per hour. They're absolutely on fire right now. They're looking really good this year so far. So really interested in them, really interested in this game as a whole. I'll be doing the Oilers Nation pre and post game shows tonight. Goes live at 4:30 Mountain Standard Time. So come on, check that over on the Oilers Nation YouTube channel tonight.
There you go. Let's get to game number, I think, 8. Minnesota hosts the Washington Capitals tonight. They are slight home favorites. The Wild still struggling defensively. Maybe adding Quinn Hughes will help that a little bit, but offensively, not great. That'll definitely be helped by Quinn Hughes. So will the power play. The Capitals continue to be a very strong 5v5 team. Not good in the special teams department. Minnesota won because there's the number 1 line to target tonight. It's super interesting. I would be more hesitant to click on them if Logan Thompson was getting the start with Charlie Lindgren between the pipes. I certainly feel better about him. Whenever you've got Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, and Boldy together, good things usually happen. And they're together tonight. The other thing that's super interesting about it is they're only 22,400. Now, I know that's expensive, but it feels inexpensive for that trio. Second highest, most expensive line on the slate. And I think I'd rather pay 22,400 for them than 22,100 for Toronto one. So very interesting line in this game. The matchup's pretty below average for pretty much this entire Minnesota lineup, above average for the Washington side of things. The Wild have really struggled defensively this year, but they've been completely bailed out by their goaltending. I think that this is an interesting game to target the Washington Capitals, although they have been kind of tricky to play. But we know that Protas, Surdif, and Wilson have just insane underlying metrics together. The top line, Beauvillier, Stroman, Ovechkin have had strong underlying metrics together. McMichael's had a good season. I think there's an avenue here and I think that the Washington Capitals are a pretty interesting low-owned play tonight, just given how bad the Wild have been defensively. The other interesting part of it is that Philip Gustafson grades out as the highest owned goalie on the slate, and a $7,500 goalie as a home favorite. It's easy to see why, but even for me, Zach, we were talking about pre-show. I like Gustafson tonight. The volume should be there. He's home favorite. But the Capitals are a good hockey team. This not a safe and easy click, in my opinion. So I kind of like Washington as a leverage option tonight, and they're not seeing any ownership at all. So I'll probably get down on some Washington as a low-owned contrarian play. If I'm building one lineup, are they going to make it? Probably not. But I think there's an argument to be had. I mean, you don't have to look any further than the 28th 5v5 expected goals against for the Wild. The issue with Washington continues to be that their power play is just not good, 16%. So that's always going to limit their upside, and that's part of the reason to like Gustafson and part of the reason to be hesitant about the Capitals as a whole. On the Wild side of things, pretty good power play matchup. As I mentioned, that top line together grades out number 1 overall. With them fully putting all their best players on one line really just zaps the rest of the lineup. What are your thoughts here on the Wild and Capitals?
Yeah, I think from the Minnesota perspective, I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out where to go here with this top line. What's really interesting is Kaprizov has played 5 games against the Capitals in his career. He's got exactly 0 points. Still looking for that elusive first point going up against the Caps. Eriksson Ek and Matt Boldy have had some success, respectively, though. Eriksson Ek, 11 games played, 4 goals and 8 points. Boldy, 4 goals and 7 points in 7 games played. it feels like a good spot for Minnesota one. And I'm probably I'm gonna get there tonight. They're not drawing a lot of ownership. I talk about it a lot. I like paying up to get different on slates. I think this is a slate where you can pay up to get different on Minnesota one here tonight. Obviously having Quinn Hughes there on the blue line is really going to transform this team and kind of help them get to another level offensively. So I'm fascinated in playing some Hughes tonight as well at 7K. But, like you said, too, like I don't mind getting to some of this Washington side of things, too. Like they're a really low owned contrarian option on this slate tonight, and there's no other way to really kind of cut it. Alex Ovechkin, a lot of success against Mini in his career, 26 games played, 21 goals and 40 points. Even Dylan Strome, 6 goals and 17 points in 16 games played going up against them. So I've got some interest in both sides here. I think I'd probably feel a little bit better about Minnesota one than I do this Capital side of things tonight. But in the same breath, I mean, it's again, a nice low owned spot here for a team that has been really, really solid this season. Philip Gustafsson, 5 games played going up against the Caps in his career, 3 wins, a 3.2 goals against average, just a 906 save percentage. Charlie Lindgren, meanwhile, 5 games played, no wins, 326 goals against average, and an 892 save percentage. So I feel a little bit scared about this ownership on Gustafsson. I'm probably going to come in under the field here on him tonight. I mean, it's easy to see why he's getting the clicks, just given the price tag that he's got here tonight. But it does feel a little bit risky for me. So there might be some other spots where I'm comfortable getting a little bit more of that goaltending ownership towards. But again, I do have a little bit of interest in this game.
The first game with Quinn Hughes in the lineup, the Wild beat the Bruins 6-2 in that game. Kaprizov 2 goals, 1 assist, Boldy 1 goal, 1 assist, Eriksson 1 assist, and Quinn Hughes a goal. So it was against the Bruins. Take it as with a grain of salt because the Capitals are a much better hockey club. But let's go to San Jose and Calgary. A lot of red in this game.
Yeah, a lot of red in this game. An interesting one here to say the very least. Sharks hosting the Calgary Flames. Flames coming in as the road favorites here, minus 131 on the money line, 3.1 implied total for them. Taking a look at the line stacks here in this game tonight, we got Calgary 2 grading out as the best line to target in this game overall, 12th best on the night. Calgary 1 coming in at 16th overall as the second best line in this game. And then San Jose 1, San Jose 2 coming in at 26th and 27th overall. Take a look at the matchups here in this one. Solid pace score, okay enough, 97.3. Strong matchups here for this middle six of the Calgary Flames. This second line with Kadri, Farabee, and Sharon Govich. I've finally been playing them lately, and they've been having some success. There's ownership coming in on both sides of this game here. A little bit more than I think I was kind of anticipating. Calgary 2 drawing 7.6%, San Jose 2 drawing that same amount. And Calgary 1 and San Jose 1 drawing 6.5% and 5% ownership as well, respectively. So I think there's some reasons to kind of get to this game here tonight. I just don't know if I feel the best about it. Macklin Celebrini looking up there at that top line for the Sharks, going to have Colin Graf, and I'm going to try this one out here. Igor Chernisayev, I think. I got the pronunciation guide in front of me. I think I still butchered it a little bit, so my apologies if Igor's family is watching the show today. I just don't know if I can.
I think it's Chernyshov.
There we go. Okay, I was close. I'm doing my best. Don't kill me, people. I don't know where to go in this game. I think for me as a whole, I'm probably going to be under the field on the ownership for this game as a whole. Dustin Wolf getting the start for the Calgary Flames tonight. Interesting spot for him, to say the very least. He has been tremendous against the Sharks in his career. 9 games played. He's got 8 wins and a shutout, 1.88 goals against average, and a 924 save percentage. He's let in more than 2 goals against the Sharks in a single game once in his career. Now, granted, it was 6 goals against, but those are pretty tremendous numbers otherwise. In the same breath, it kind of feels like it might be a bit of a trap spot here. He's drawing some ownership at 8%. I don't know, man. I don't know if I can get behind San Jose in this game. I don't know how great I can feel about playing the Calgary Flames. because they're a team that still is just struggling to score offensively. They're generating a lot, they're generating quality. They just cannot seem to figure out a way to kind of capitalize on that on a regular basis. So I don't really know where I'm going to go with the ownership here tonight in this game. I'm probably going to sprinkle in a bit of this Calgary Flames side of things tonight. I don't know if I'm going to get there to San Jose. Where are you kind of at with this one?
The first thing I said this morning at like 7 in the morning when I looked at the pricing was, this Wolf thing feels like a trap, man. But I think I'm ready to just jump right into it. I just, no Will Smith. This is a very banged up Sharks team that wasn't good to begin with. Just some of that Macklin Celebrini doesn't matter what the metrics say. Does he lose some of that with Will Smith out? I hope so, because this Dustin Wolf pricing just makes a lot of sense to click on him tonight. Like, the underlying metrics for the Sharks are brutal. Defensively, the Flames aren't great. Let's just take a look at the over the last month, they are 27th in the NHL in terms of 5v5 expected goals against. So they're giving up quality for sure. And I think that it's fair to have some volume concerns. He's projected for, I would imagine, a second lowest shot again. So I think there are enough red flags to make you cautious, but at the same time, I think it's interesting. I think that I'm certainly going to get there tonight. How much, we shall see. Chernyshov, Graf's been playing well. I think this top line really, really cheap for the Sharks. I just don't have a lot of faith in this team right now. And then I think the big issue for me with Calgary is one matchup really good, one matchup really bad. We have Morgan Frost, Huberdeau, Coronado as the top line for the Flames, but the Sharks might think that's Nazem Kadri's line, which would be totally fair. And if that's the case, then all of a sudden the Morgan Frost line has the better matchup, and they're the better play. So I'm a little bit nervous about playing the Flames as well, because I just don't know which line it is. Kadri's been great in terms of the shot volume. He's been very unfortunate this year. He's shooting like 5%. So will that continue tonight? Possibly. I just don't think this is going to end up being a very high scoring game. And to me, it's more of a late slate play than anything for the value. On the main slate, I don't think I'm going to get to it a whole heck of a lot. Like Rasmus Anderson, I'll probably click on him. He feels like the best play in this whole game. He's averaged like 9.5 shot attempts per game in his last 5 games. That's insane for a defenseman. 9.5 shot attempts per game in his last 5. Bonkers stuff. Let's get to the final game of the night. Seattle hosting the Colorado Avalanche. I joked in the DFO DFS Discord, how many people or who's going to be winning 100K tonight? And then all of a sudden, here comes the Avalanche train, just steamroll, because it's probably going to happen. The number 1 5v5 team in the league. Power play is starting to get a little bit better. Going up against the worst penalty kill in the league by a lot. I think there's so many good expensive options on the slate tonight, but it's still so hard to be like, how is it not Colorado one that's the best? How is it not McKinnon? McKinnon's like minus 500 to minus 700, depending on the book, to pick up a point tonight, which is like insane behavior. Matchup wise, this is an Avalanche, or this is a Seattle team that for the most part defends pretty well. The PK sucks, and I don't think it matters how well you defend against the Colorado Avalanche. They don't seem to give a shit. They're just going to kill you anyway. So yeah, this team scores at least 3 goals a game for fun, and then they sometimes score 6, sometimes score 7. I just don't know how you don't click on Colorado in sub capacity tonight. They're nearly perfect. The second line's got really strong underlying metrics as well. They both make a lot of sense. Value option, I've been playing a lot of Colorado too. I like them again tonight. The top line, I like them again tonight. No thank you on Seattle. So yeah, I don't think we need to break this one down too much. I think the one thing that is a little surprising is the lack of total ownership on Colorado. McKinnon's still seeing a boatload, which is unsurprising. So yeah, when we take a look at the raw projections for tonight's slate, McKinnon is the best player on the slate. We take a look at the value projection, which factors in price tag. He's the second best player on the slate. I think there's a lot to like here about this top line for the Avs. There's a lot to like about that second line, although they haven't always gotten there. So yeah, I thought the ownership would be a little bit higher. And if Grubauer starts, I mean, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this feels like just a smash spot for Colorado. Dating back to the start of the 23-24 season, these teams have played against each other 6 times. The Avalanche are 5-1 in those games, outscoring Seattle 26-13, 5-2 win, 6-3 win, 3-2 win, 5-1 win, 4-3 loss, 4-1 win. They've scored at minimum 3 goals per game against the Colorado Avalanche. So for me, yeah, it's pretty simple on this one. Like, I really don't think there's much to break down around Colorado one. If they are on the slate, play them. There's a really good chance that they're going to pop off and have themselves a night. McKinnon is very expensive now, $10,200. That's not going to deter me from playing him because he's still projected to have a huge night tonight. And in his career against the Kraken, 11 games played, 3 goals and 16 points. Looks like a great spot again for them.
Let's get to the defensemen and the goalies, and we will send you on your way. No head-to-head today, by the way, just to let you know ahead of time. We just did not have time for such a thing. Ian Moore projects extremely well. It's a bit surprising. Alex Carrier, probably one of my favorite value options of the night. Matt Grzelcyk up there as well. Sam Malinsky, big fan there. For whatever reason, Ben Chirachis continues to be an insane value as well. I don't mind these Rangers defensemen Schneider and Gavrikov either if you need to get cheap. There's Grzelcyk. Who stands out to you? I like Denton Mateychuk. Really nice game environment there. He plays with Zach Werenski. I think Mateychuk makes a lot of sense tonight. I think there's some of the other Columbus defenseman that makes some sense as well. I think they're all drawing some ownership. Yeah, Provorov is the one that I was thinking of. Werenski, highest owned defenseman on the slate. Klingberg, really high ownership tonight as well. Who stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, these cheap defensemen look solid tonight. Ian Moore, Alexandre Carrier, Louis Crevier. I think these are all solid guys to play here as cheaper defensemen. There's some interesting pay-up options here tonight, too. Like, how about Zach Werenski drawing 28% ownership on this slate tonight? That feels like somebody that you might have to try and figure out a way to jam in a little bit here and there as well into your lineups. Some of these mid-range guys, you mentioned Rasmus Anderson earlier. I think he's a rock solid play. Moritz Seider, I think he's a guy you can get to here on this slate as well. Anderson's probably my favorite defensive play on the entire slate tonight. Ryan Pulock at $4,300, I think is an okay play. Sean Durzi, $3,900. Provorov probably should be getting a little bit more love as well. Playing up on that top or on that second pairing rather. Those are probably guys that I'm going to be kind of keeping an eye on here tonight.
Yeah, in terms of the floor per $1,000 as of late, Ben Sherratt, Pavel Mintyukov, Matthew Robertson, Wyatt Kaiser, Connor Murphy, Ian Moore, Jake McCabe, Rasmus Sandin, lots of names for you. Hampus Lindholm. Let's get to the goalies. We talked about it. I think, like, obviously if you want to try to lock up a win tonight, Mackenzie Blackwood is the route to go. Projected for just 2.2 goals against tonight is obviously insane. Wool, I think, yeah, he's fine. He's played well. I don't imagine that the Blackhawks score a lot of goals without Connor Bedard, so I think Wool makes some sense. Jet Greaves projected to see the most volume of the night, tied with Philip Grubauer, but has a significantly 30% higher chance of winning tonight. So I think Greaves is a really nice value option tonight at $7,600. I think the game environment is sketchy, but I think that the Blue Jackets can certainly win that game. And even with projected 3 goals against, like, you're still looking at a pretty good night for Jet Greaves, but a little bit of a riskier option. Then we got Gustafsson, obviously. I don't feel really very good about Gibson, Jari, or Askarov. Gibson's played well, but just at 8K, I don't think I'm going to get there. Charlie Lowe. Like, for me, it's a lot of Gustafsson, it's a lot of Wolf, it's a lot of Blackwood, some Greaves, maybe some Sorokin. I don't mind Demko either. Like, the Canucks have actually played well defensively. The Rangers can't score on anybody. Those would probably be, like, I just don't imagine that Spencer Knight wins the hockey game without Bedard. Those would probably be my favorites tonight. How about you?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head here. Like, I don't have a ton to add. I think one thing that I will say is I probably got a little more interest in Askarov than you do. maybe not been the greatest as of late here, but his numbers against Calgary are also kind of hilarious, similar to Dustin Wolf. For Askarov, he's got 2 games played against the Flames, no wins, but 1.55 goals against average and a 955 save percentage. Oh yeah, he's also expected or projected to see the 3rd most volume on the slate tonight. I think he's a guy who's certainly viable here tonight at $8,100. I don't mind the idea of some Jacob Fowler at 7,700 going up against Philly. I think that's an okay spot. And I'm probably going to play a little bit of Tristan Jarry tonight.
Oh my God, he's all in on the new Oilers goalie. Let's get to the hat trick pick challenge. If you want to participate in tonight's hat trick pick challenge, all you got to do is comment your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube, not the live chat. So wait till the show ends and then comment your hat trick pick. If your player scores a hat trick, we get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. You can pick up some DFO swag like this sweater. And yeah, if somebody scores a hat trick that nobody picked, we'll just raffle it off to anybody who submitted a pick. So get back into the swing of things here. Let's get some hat trick pick winners going again. Zach, I'm the reason we canceled the show for a week, so why don't you go first?
I'm going to go with Leon Draisaitl, hat trick against his former teammate. He's going to not just get his 1,000th point. He's going to have 1,002 by the end of the night.
Oh, very, very fun. Give me Kirill Marchenko. Chalk, big time chalk, but it just feels like such a good spot for that line. So I'm going to go Kirill, the Thrill, Marchenko, the other Kirill, the Thrill, of course. Yeah, that's going to do it for this edition of the DFO DFS Hockey Report. Hopefully somebody in the chat, hopefully somebody in the show, starting with myself. But if it can't be myself, hopefully somebody in the chat wins $100,000 tonight. That would be very fun. I think, put it this way, I think I'll be in a better mood. Not that I'm in a bad mood right now, but I think all this illness will just evaporate. It'll just go away if I win 100K tonight. I'll be in a better mood tomorrow. I think it would be a lot more fun show tomorrow than it is today if I win $100,000. What do you think? You think that's probably accurate?
I think that'd be pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
I think it would be a lot of fun. So I'm just putting it out there. I think it would be a lot of fun. If it's not me, hopefully it's one of you guys. But hopefully it's me. I don't know. We'll see. See you guys back here tomorrow. Hopefully $100,000, Richard. Until then, cheers.
Cheers.